Welcome to the Created Worthy podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're here. On this show, I talk about creative processing and how to utilize it as a skill to bring peace, joy, and freedom into our chaotic lives. I also sit down with the most incredible guests as they share their stories, many of which for the very first time. We are all created worthy. Hello, and welcome to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by Dr. Lisette Elba, who is a certified functional medicine specialist, mindset coach, essential oils educator, and best-selling author. She is also a dedicated wife and mother of 2 girls. Prior to entering the world of functional medicine and launching her own practice, Holistic Simple Living, she spent 14 years working as a community and clinical pharmacist with various leadership roles. After struggling with her own health challenges with autoimmune disease and reclaiming control of her health without medications, she found her calling to empower other women to regain control of their lives and health by using a simple holistic approach. Dr. Lisette specializes in educating stressed out women to change their mindset, manage stress, and achieve optimal health by implementing holistic lifestyle changes, which helps them create their ideal life. Thank you so much, Lisette, for joining me, and welcome to the Created Worthy podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So to start, I would love for you to just talk a little bit about your story. Whatever you have on your heart, wherever you want to start is great. And I will just ask questions.
Awesome. So there's so many stories I could share. But I guess the one I like to share the most is my health journey. I was diagnosed at the age of 29 with rheumatoid arthritis. But the story of how I got there to that diagnosis is very unique. I don't really have much family history other than one time when I was a kid, my mom was told she had arthritis, and I don't really remember her suffering from arthritis. I remember hearing a story where she took natural remedies and never heard of arthritis again my whole life. Before this official diagnosis, I had been diagnosed with Lyme disease. I had during my pregnancy, had a really weird flare up, and I couldn't address the flare up in this joint because I was pregnant. So I had to wait this out. Luckily, there was not much pain, if any pain at all. It was just an annoying symptom.
Right.
Finally,
where was the pain?
So in my foot, on the toe joint, like the second toe, it was swollen to the point I couldn't wear any shoes other than sneakers and some really big sandals or something that wasn't I even had to go to a functional event in flats because I couldn't wear any closed shoes.
Oh my goodness. That sounds miserable.
While pregnant.
Yes. And being pregnant in itself is kind of miserable. I mean, right. It was for me, but
I had really good pregnancies. And with this second pregnancy, I actually made an effort to not gain as much weight as I gained with the first. I gained 50 pounds with my first pregnancy, and I gained 40 with my second one.
That is worth a round of applause.
Right? So once my daughter, who's now 8.5, was born, November of 2013, in January, post C-section recovery, I was like, okay, time to address my other issue. So I go to the doctor, and they're like, oh, your x-ray looks fine. Let's get an MRI. I'm like, okay. MRI comes back, and then the radiologist is questioning whether I have some type of arthritis, or because they see a lot of swelling and, nothing else really much comes up. So that original doctor that I went to was not a foot specialist. They were knee people. So they're like, we're going to send you to a different orthopedic that does feet. I go, okay, cool beans. Lucky for me, the office they referred me to was an office that one of my friends knew very well because she had a really big incident, and she had gone to that office. So she knew all the doctors there. When I go to this doctor, they do in-house x-rays, and they literally put it on the screen while you're in the room. And when I look at the x-ray, there's a hole in my bone.
A hole?
a hole. I
In
went
your
from,
foot?
yes, I went from normal x-ray in January to hole in my foot in March. I was like, okay, this is not normal.
And this is in the bone, right?
Yeah. Like you know how normally when you have a bone x-ray, like you see the white where your
Yeah.
bones are, and then it's all black around it. Well,
Yeah.
imagine that there is a picture of a bone, and then in the middle, there's like black because there's no bone there.
What?
Like bone damage. That's what it is. Completely gone. So
What causes that?
so in my case, it was the chronic swelling leads to synovitis, which means it's inflammation of the synovial fluid surrounding the bone that protects the bones from each other from like rubbing. And it creates protein, and proteins in that area can eat away at your bone, leading to bone damage. This is why people who have arthritis have to take anti-inflammatory medications, because the inflammation ruins their bone. It eats it. And our body makes bone, but after a certain age, we don't make bone as fast as we destroy it, because we have these things called osteoblasts that make bone and osteoclasts that eat bone. So when we have more bone destruction versus bone production, plus if you add inflammation to that, that's destroying your bone too, then that's why older people have to take better care of their bones.
Whoa. So we all have that. Like,
Yes, we have our cells make bone and destroy bone. But at the same time, if you have something else that's destroying your bones too, and you can't make bone fast enough, then it kind of messes things up.
so when you found out that you had a hole in your bone, what did you do?
So the first thing, well, here's the first thing in my head. I'm like, this doctor's gonna walk into this room and tell me that there's a possibility I have cancer. Yes, at 29
Yeah.
with a newborn and a toddler and a sick parent, add a serious health problem to that mix. And I was trying to contain all my emotions until the doctor came in to talk to me. And he saw me, and he's like, well, actually, let's backtrack. He didn't tell me that at this appointment. He's like, you need to go see rheumatology first before we do any surgeries to help fix whatever problem you have. So go to rheumatology. They do blood work, the whole shebang. They do more x-rays, and they look at all the reports. They're like, are you going to do the surgery for this? And then I go, I have to. Like, I can't wear shoes. So sends me back to the surgeon, which is the original doctor. When they do x-rays the second time, or the third time at this point, this x-ray was worse than the one that had the original bone destruction. So in 6 weeks, more bone was destroyed or
so
damaged.
It was just getting damaged.
So
like
because of the
damage.
because of the accelerated damage, that's at this point. So we're talking like May, like after Mother's Day. That's when they told me that there was a possibility it could be cancer. I walked out a mess from that doctor's appointment,
Right.
with a referral to go see an orthopedic oncologist, which the only one in South Florida was a 2-hour visit away, because he wasn't in my city at that time when I needed to see him before my potential surgery, because my insurance deductible was going to lapse within like a couple of weeks. And I'm like, I need this surgery before this month is over. So they're like, okay, we'll schedule you for next week. But before next week, you need to go see this doctor. When I call the doctor, they're like, well, he's not available till June 9th in Miami. I'm like, no, my doctor, so-and-so, says I need to see him before next week, before my surgery. He's like, well, you can go to Deerfield Beach, which is a 2-hour drive. I go, perfect. I have the day off. My husband had the day off. We're driving 2 hours to go see this doctor. So I go see the doctor. And during this phase, postpartum, back at work, maternity leave is over, I would wake up every day in pain and with a lot of stiffness. It was a 15 to 20 minute process to get out of bed. I couldn't raise my arms up straight. It hurt to answer the phone at work.
So it was just kind of all over your body.
At this point, I had pain everywhere. Like every single joint hurt. So I guess you know how when you're pregnant, like your body gets into like this Zen mode that nothing can hurt you because it's protecting the baby. So I think once all my hormones started to downregulate to their normal level, and then I went back to work to a stressful environment, my body went haywire. And all those accelerated damage happened after I went back to work. And after I went, I was already like, it was like my baby, like 4 months after I had the baby. At this point, it was like, okay, like there's something wrong on the inside. You need to address. When this oncologist sees me, he does an ultrasound. He's like, listen, I honestly don't think you have cancer. He gave me the good news. He's like, I just think you have a lot of swelling. And because you couldn't take care of it in a timely fashion, it's eating away at your bones. The rheumatologist had requested to do biopsies just to make sure there was nothing else wrong in there. So due to lack of evidence, they diagnosed me with arthritis because they couldn't find it in the blood. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find anything else that was wrong. So that's the term they gave me. It's called serum negative arthritis. Once
and that is what causes that with the inflammation. Is that the cause of your bone degeneration?
So the inflammation causes bone degeneration. Correct.
Okay. And that is the inflammation is caused by the arthritis.
Yeah. So arthritis is inflammation in the bones or in the joints. And yes, that's why it's called arthritis. So there could be an autoimmune issue. In my case, I honestly think it's related to the fact that I had Lyme back in 2011. I was diagnosed with Lyme. So 3 years prior to this, I had a tick bite in 2009 and I didn't think anything of it because we're in Florida where there's no deer and there really shouldn't be too many cases. But come to find out, things travel all over the place. And I didn't have any of those typical markers that would flag, hey, potential Lyme, whatever. But then when I went to the doctor for a checkup because I had hurt my knee and it was taking a very long time for the inflammation to go away, he tested me for Lyme and it came back positive. Once we were doing more research, there's something called post-Lyme disease, which is even if you've been treated for Lyme, you could have all these other issues, and arthritis is one of them. So I don't have full confirmation that is the potential cause of why I have flare-ups here and there, and they're usually induced by stress. That is the most common thing. So once I had my answer to potentially what was wrong with me, I went down this rabbit hole of I don't want to be on medications for the rest of my life. So what can I do at the age of 30? Because I just turned 30 in the middle of this process to ensure that I'm going to have, quality of life for the next 20, 30, 40 years, however long I'm going to live with these little kids I have to take care of, because I don't really have that extra support from grandparents that, can, fill in if needed. I have my dad and I'm very grateful that I have him and that he's healthy and he's been like a major player in taking care of my kids. But unfortunately at that time my mom was sick and my mother-in-law lives on another island 90 miles south from where I live. And
so yeah, the support isn't
exactly, and my husband's in the healthcare field too. So it's like, it was a juggling act.
It's on you.
Yeah. And then when you have girls, it's like, it's always about mommy filling in and doing stuff. So that was the trajectory that led me to where I am now, where it's all trying to heal your body naturally and more about maintenance, like, yes, you can do all the things and heal, but if you don't keep them up after and make it a lifestyle, you're just going to go back to square one.
So after you went through all of this and you figured out that one, you have arthritis and that it was potentially caused from Lyme disease, and you're trying to continue being a pharmacist and a wife and a mom, and I am sure that you were caring for your mom at some point.
I had to put her in a place because she wasn't mobile. She needed like 24-hour around the clock care, but I would go visit her 3-4 days a week.
Right.
I would take my toddler at the time to go see her, things like that. Unfortunately, she passed that same year that I was diagnosed. So 2014 was like the year of crap.
Hell. Yeah. A year from hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, honestly, if I didn't have a baby and a toddler to keep me preoccupied, I think my mental health would have gone to shit.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my question is like, what did you do to support yourself through that season? And how were you able to overcome while you were facing so much all at once?
The biggest thing I did was tap into yoga and meditation. That was, I wasn't, well, imagine this. Post surgery, I had to take another month off. I took 4 months of maternity leave. And then I had to take another month off because I couldn't be on my feet. And I was a retail pharmacist working at CVS at the time. And pharmacists work on their feet practically the whole day. Like at the time, I was doing 13-hour shifts on weekdays when I worked weekdays. So it was basically impossible for me to go back to work. When they asked me the question, oh, what do you do for work? Normally it's 2 weeks and you go back. I go, I'm a pharmacist. They're like, oh no, girl, you're getting a month off. Like, okay, sure, I'll take another month off. No problem. Another month to be home with my baby. So
perfect. Yes,
yeah. And then mind you, a month where I couldn't really move and I have a 2-story house. So I had to go up in crutches, down in like I tried to like live downstairs most of the day. And I was literally like a couch potato for that whole month. I was very immobile. I had to wear boot or crutches or whatever. Finally got my stitches out. And then when I was finally able to exercise, it was very like light stuff, like walking, and I could barely stretch because like one of my legs looked like completely deformed next to the other one from it being immobile. Like, yeah, God. It looks like that leg by itself lost like 5 pounds.
You're like, what in the heck?
Yeah. So I started doing yoga, watching YouTube videos, doing yoga and meditating. And that really was probably what helped me not go into a funk. I was very lucky not to go into a depression, not to, deal with because with that monstrosity of a year of that 2014 was for me, I can only imagine if a person wouldn't have been in the right mental capacity to deal with it, they would have had PTSD or, who knows, like,
right.
So I'm very grateful. I turned to, my spirituality, praying a lot and doing all those things that, we do in my household. And that probably was what really helped me. And then, focusing on my energy and raising babies. Right. I don't know, but that in itself is a full-time like job. And I don't know for other moms out there, and I'm guessing most of them can resonate to this, but when you have a baby and you just look at their face and like they make your day, and even if they're like if they're having a bad day, like your job is to make them feel better. So you're not even worried about yourself. You're worried about making sure that you're doing a good job for them. So I think that's kind of like where my headspace went. It was like, what can I do to be a better parent? What could I do to be a better mom? Even though I was struggling with my own issues, having that motivation helped me not go into a funk.
I completely agree. When you look at the face of your child, something just propels you to be able to know that you're going to be okay and you can continue to move forward. You said something about leaning into meditation and leaning into yoga and leaning into your faith and being able to kind of protect your mind during that season. And I just released an episode last week about processing pain and how important it is to process pain and deal with pain as it comes up and not ignore it until it turns into something worse. Do you think that is what you did during that season? You you realized you had pain, you went to the doctor and dealt with the physical pain, but you also were dealing with the emotional pain as it came up. Did you lean into feeling sad?
Yes.
As well as
yes,
okay.
definitely. Whenever I needed to feel sad, I would just have a crying session if I needed one. I would, vent with myself or with, God or with my husband, or with my dad, and during that season, like I mentioned, I lost my mom too. So it was a very emotional season for me. And I don't know how much you know about zodiacs or how much you believe in that stuff, but I'm a Cancer Leo cusp. So Cancers are like the most emotional
yes
signs of the zodiac. So, and after being a mom, it's like I can watch a freaking Disney movie and I'll just start crying.
I'm the same way now.
I don't know what it is after motherhood. It's like the tear glands just produce tears no matter what.
All the time.
So, if I needed a crying session, I would try and release that emotional pain in whatever way, shape, or form I need. Like sometimes even, the thought of my mom, even though I try not to, be sad about her not being with me and having this conversation, as you can see my face, it's very emotional for me to talk about her. Because I miss her so much. I try to focus on happy moments and things that, we used to do together. She was a very funny lady. She was always making people laugh. So I try to emphasize on those things. But, there's nothing more painful than maybe losing a child is more painful than losing your mom. But as a mom, you always need your mom, no matter what season of life you're in. So that was a very, very emotionally painful moment in my life, and it still is, even though it's gonna be 8 years this year in September. But yeah, so I'm not I'm not afraid of a crying session because I think they're very much needed in order to help release that emotional pain.
Yes.
And I think it's a good way to maintain your sanity too.
Yes, exactly. Like, one of the things I talked about was how if you let pain go unprocessed, it always catches up with you. Definitely. It's not something that you can just ignore because pain demands to be felt. And that I think that we're created to be like that. I think that we are created to feel what comes up. Do we always need to make decisions based on how we feel? No. But sometimes we do. And sometimes the decisions are simple, like having a crying session and being like, I'm going to just reflect on these memories with my mom, or lean into the fact that it doesn't feel fair that she's not here. Like, it's not. You're a mom. You should have a mom who can help you guide you through motherhood.
Right.
And that's what you always picture when you become a mom. So leaning into that, I think it really is healthy for our minds. I would like to know how all of these things that happened in your life propelled you towards kind of taking a new step forward into holistic wellness and wanting to help other women be able to reclaim their life and their health in similar ways that you have, but with you being the support.
Right. So I think my biggest thing and the most eye-opening thing working as a pharmacist is seeing people in their third generation of their life, in their 60s, 70s, and having to take a multitude of medications for a multitude of diseases. And sometimes when it comes to these autoimmune issues, it's things that are very delicate and you're in pain and, inflammation, and it affects so many other things, not only in your physical health, but it affects you socially. It's going to affect you mentally. It's going to affect you, in so many ways. It's going to prevent you from doing things. And I had a picture of my future every freaking day at the pharmacy. I was like, I don't want to be in that picture. I
Yeah.
want to, I want to be in the picture where I'm active, where I can go on vacations and I can travel well into retirement, like past 50,
Right.
60, 70. I don't want to be a couch potato. I don't want to be, stuck on a bed. I don't, and then having a sick parent in their in their late 60s, early 70s, like I didn't want to be that either. So I was like, well, if I wait till I'm that age to start doing something about it, it's going to be too late.
Right.
If I just cover it up now with pills, it's only going to get worse behind the medication.
Right. And I think
So,
that that's really extremely powerful coming from you, who has your doctorate in pharmacy. You've studied pills, you've studied the side effects, you've studied the long term effects of these things, and you have still chosen to say, you know what, there is a better way, but it takes that prevention. It takes taking action steps way before you ever even need these pills. Yes. Is there good to be had of our modern medicine? Yeah. I'm sure that you know that medications save lives all the time, but they don't maintain a quality of life most of the time.
right.
And
So,
that's what I think is so courageous about you and getting to know you and so many pharmacists is that you guys have had this realization, which then makes me, as not a pharmacist or anyone to do with the medical field, be like, wow, this really is important. It really is important to take natural wellness seriously. Like, it's not just a woo-woo thing, right? Like, it's a real thing. Our bodies really do have the power to heal themselves. But we have to support them in the ways that they need, which is through diet and exercise and mineral balancing, which is one thing that you've done for me and do for so many other people. Just really taking a look at our individual bodies instead of just treating the singular symptom.
right. And then another thing is that what works for Joe is not going to work for Jack, you know what I mean? Or, everybody is going to be different and everybody has different needs. And, when we're in pharmacy school, they teach us that, these are the guidelines. So if so and so has this is how you're going to treat them. You're going to start here and then you're going to move to here, you're going to move to here. And one thing they really would, pound on us in pharmacy school was to counsel patients about lifestyle recommendations. Because a lot of times the doctors don't have time to talk to them about lifestyle recommendations. So,
So they actually taught you that in pharmacy school.
They did, but it wasn't like a full blown emphasis on it. Like
Right.
they would tell us that we should definitely have to counsel patients that, if they're diabetic, they have to learn how to, monitor their sugars. They should learn how to have a proper diet. They should implement exercise. So they did give us those tools to counsel patients because pharmacists are required to counsel in every state, especially when there's a new medication, to make sure that there's no like loophole that, somebody falls through the cracks and,
Right.
we missed something.
Right.
There could be an error caught from a conversation with a patient right before you hand them the bag over. So one of the things was to always recommend lifestyle stuff. So whenever I get a prescription and I have the opportunity to speak to somebody, which sometimes it's really hard because we're constantly answering phones, filling prescriptions, verifying medications, making sure that the doctor didn't write something incorrectly. And you have people picking up constantly. So it's kind of hard to step away from what you're doing to go talk to somebody, but you have to make that effort. So, a lot of times we'll be like, oh, this is new. They're like, oh, yeah, I just got diagnosed with blah, blah, blah. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, did you get your diabetes glucometer already? And sometimes I'll be like, no. I'm like, well, do you want to buy one right now to, hold you over until you get one with a prescription so that you don't have to pay for supplies? We'll open it up. I'll show you how to use it because they train us how to do that too. They're like, oh, for real? I'm like, well, yeah, if they didn't teach you at the doctor's office, my job is to make sure you go home and you know what you're doing, right?
Right.
And then like, They I don't know how some doctors they do it or not, but a diabetic should be referred to a nutritionist to learn how to eat.
Yeah.
You know?
You've done a really good job of upholding your position as a pharmacist, but I know that it's a desire and it's something that you've been building and will continue building is your functional medicine business.
Right.
And so I'd love for you to spend a minute or two just talking about what that is, what you offer, and how you serve people.
So in my functional medicine practice, I focus a lot on mineral balancing, which is basically taking a look at how minerals are functioning within our bodies. Minerals are cofactors for hundreds and hundreds of processes within our bodies that help produce energy. They help us process nutrients and vitamins to make sure that we're actually absorbing the foods and using them properly to make the energy that our body needs to function. It also helps with cellular activity, so making sure that we can transport things into and out of cells. It helps with hormones. It helps with our adrenal function, how we deal with stress. Minerals are like the essence of how our body works. If our minerals are off, our bodies are going to get into this dysregulation and this dysfunction where over the course of time, if it's not addressed, it could translate into a disease later on. So that is the main focus of my practice. And within that focus, I help you manage your stress. I help you change your mindset. I help you create healthy habits so that once we're done with my program, which is, usually my starting point to figure out where you're at, then you have the tools that you need to basically continue on your own. And then you only need to, come back to me for follow-ups to make sure that you are maintaining at a, optimal health.
Wow. And do you serve a specific subset of people?
So I try to focus on women because that's my jam. I love talking to other women. We can relate. Most of them are moms, or working moms or entrepreneurs who, have put their health to the side to focus on all these other things and on focus their energy on the people they care for. But one realization during this journey that I've had is nobody's going to take care of me. I have to take care of me so that I can serve everybody else. Right. So as much as I love my kids, as much as I love my husband, as much as I love my dad, and I love serving everybody else, Lisette cannot serve people if Lisette goes down the drain.
Yes. And that actually brings up the favorite quote that you sent over, which is, there is no greater thing you can do with your life and your work than follow your passions in a way that serves the world and you. And that's by Richard Branson. And that is the quote that you sent over. And that quote really does just define everything you just said. Like, right. You really do have to take care of yourself, and you can't serve anyone with an empty cup.
Correct.
There is no greater thing that you can do with your life and your work than to follow your passions. And for you, a passion is to be healthy.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that passion also carries into what you want for other people and what you want other people to receive and achieve through the things that you can help them with. You are uniquely designed and created to help them with. Right. So with that being said,
right.
Do you have any programs coming up or anything that anyone who's listening may be able to get involved with?
Yes. So I'm mostly on Instagram. That's where I am mostly active. So you can follow me there at dr.lisettealba. That's LISETTEALBA. I'm currently taking on clients for my Simple Holistic 90-Day Transformation Program. We officially start on July the 19th. I am currently have the offer open up for anybody who wants to join the program. I am capping it at no more than 15 to 20 people, depending on how much interest I have. I'm trying to keep it a small, intimate group. And after launching this program 2 times, I have revamped it and decided to streamline it so that it works a little bit different. But I will be definitely pumping out a lot of content regarding mineral balancing and the importance of balancing minerals to create an optimal, healthy lifestyle over the next couple of weeks. So if anybody wants to, get some of that free information, they can go find me there. And if they want to join, they can definitely go, find my profile, click the link in the bio, and ask me any questions.
Amazing. And I will definitely leave all of your links, including the one to this program specifically, in the show notes as well. Dr. Lisette, thank you so much for joining me on the Created Worthy podcast. It has been such a joy to talk to you today and to hear more of your story. I truly believe that you are making a huge impact in people's lives already. And I cannot wait to see what you continue to do and how you continue to serve.
I really appreciate you having me on here and giving me the opportunity to share my story. And
yes, you'll be back soon. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Created Worthy podcast. If you want to connect more, you can follow along with me over at Danielle Damrell or Damrell Creative Co. on Instagram and Facebook. All the links to today's topics are in the show notes, and you can also find a link to my Patreon, which is where you can help support my mission on this show and keep it going. Ratings and reviews really do matter, so make sure to hook me up with 5-star review. Any less, I would rather hear your opinions over email. So anyway, if this episode resonated with you at all, share the love, send it to a friend, or post it on your social media. But don't forget to tag me so I see it and can share it too. I hope all of you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.